All right, thanks for coming out tonight, everybody. We're going to start the meeting with the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, we'll start with the approval of the agenda. Any additions, corrections, Paul? Nope. Dan?
Nope.
We are going to remove F, the plan amendment, the comprehensive plan amendment, F2, or 1, 2, we'll call it. We're still going to keep the concept on.
Yeah, I think we'll
okay.
give a brief update on that.
All right, so remove F1, 2, and that's the only change or addition that I have.
That's right.
So with that, I'll entertain a motion to approve the agenda as changed.
I'll make that motion.
Thanks, Dan. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thanks, Ryan. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Consent agenda. Questions, comments for administration on the consent agenda? Entertain.
I had just one.
Yep.
Actually, wait. That's not where we find the notes from the different committees, right?
That's correspondence.
Correspondence.
Well, there could be some minutes.
I'll wait till,
There are minutes from the library board in there?
I had a question from the liquor store notes, that's all. I'll wait.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so that'll be correspondence.
Yep, thank you, sorry.
No, that's fine. Anything else on the consent agenda? Okay, entertain a motion to approve.
Make the motion to approve.
All right, thank you. Do we have a second?
Yeah, I'll second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. And Mel is absent tonight. She had to leave town. And we'll go on to Visitors Council, Dodge County Housing. Karina Schmitz, you are up.
Ian, why don't you bring that lot up on the screen, if you would?
I pulled it up. Thank you for having me. Karina Schmitz with Min Prairie. We are Dodge Steel and Waseca Human Services, for those who don't know. And apparently it's Housing Week here in Casson, which we didn't know. But, I am here representing the Housing Trust Fund. So last year, Dodge County put together a Housing Trust Fund, had a public hearing and an ordinance in place to establish that. We established it with two different pools of money that came to the county directly. One is the Local Homeless Prevention Aid, and the second is the State Affordable Housing Aid, the SAHA dollars. And the SAHA dollars will be in place for 2 years. The Local Homeless Prevention Aid will be in place for 5 years. And so we funded the Housing Trust Fund with that to start. We have 8 people on the advisory council. Tim helps out with that actually also. We have 2 city administrators from within Dodge County, a couple bank representatives and mortgage lenders, construction, CEDA member, SEMTRA, and a county commissioner. But with that, the advisory council really decides the focus for where we're spending the money annually. This year, they're looking at land acquisition for future development next year and into the following year for affordable and workforce housing, just given the dollars that we have with it. The parcel of land that we've talked about and looked at is 2465-11003. It's right across from the brand new large multifamily unit, and then where Sam's company is going to be building
Just click on it so it's highlighted.
their area also.
Click in there, there you go.
There is already affordable housing in the Sam's company project, as you know, that's coming. So it would be a smaller development that we're looking at doing, whether it be a couple individual projects or a 4 to 6-plex, something like that. But right now, we're looking at acquiring the land that the city owns. And so the request is really, we're still in discussion phase, but the request really would be to get it as a reasonable price from the city of Casson. And so that's why I'm here.
there's enough space there, excuse me, with department and to put,
There is enough space there, yep. The
How many units was
large,
it, Karina? I
the
forgot.
large unit is coming over, under, at the bottom of that circle,
okay.
yep. What was the question?
Never mind. I just
Okay.
was wondering how many units you were looking at. You said sixplex?
Yeah,
Okay. I think,
That's what the
just so the
discussion
council's
is,
aware, I do serve in that group, and the price tag that we had said was $100,000. Now, I don't know what the group itself will go for, but I have been trying to think of ways and talking with Ian about some ways that we could reduce the initial cost for the development, if that's what the council wants to do. And one of those things we thought about would be, taking part of that cost and making it an assessment. Part of the reason we want to recoup those costs is because it's for water and sewer costs, right? So the idea would be maybe take $50,000 for the lot, and then do $50,000 in assessments, which would be paid all over a period of time, which would reduce the initial impact, and would still allow us to recoup those costs. As council's aware, development, we ask the development pay for development, and we need to recoup those water and sewer costs, because otherwise, it's problematic for us going forward with other developments. So that was one of the things that we thought about, but to try and get that cost recouped.
Okay. And what's the time frame you're looking at on this?
we'd like to purchase it this year.
Okay.
This is really just initial to get the discussion happening, getting you guys aware of the Housing Trust Fund in general and the, goals.
I really don't have any issues selling
Yeah.
land.
Has anyone else approached us about that smaller part of the parcel?
We've had a couple of discussions with some of the developers in town, and I know that, at this time, they've got other projects they're kind of focused on. So I think that, we do feel like this wouldn't be a bad choice to try and get off of the, get it back on the city tax rolls and get it off of the city's plate. One of my goals is for it to develop, not expeditiously, but timely. We don't want a speculator to buy the land and sit on that for 10 years. That doesn't really benefit the city, it doesn't benefit us. We want it to be something that we can, get something built on that can be beneficial for the public and beneficial for the tax rolls. So, I don't know, what is the time frame on construction, do you think, Karina? Obviously, there's lots of different...
Yeah, there's a lot of different factors,
Exactly what goal.
obviously.
What would be your goal, I guess, maybe to say?
Goals, break ground next fall.
Okay.
I've had a discussion with First Homes so that, the county doesn't want to own the land. It just, wants to acquire it through the Housing Trust Fund, and then, so looking into First Homes being in the land trust that they do, and then work from there, so.
County wouldn't retain land, it would go into the
Correct.
trust, okay.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
And maybe you could explain, I don't know, maybe you did while I was out, talk about the Housing Trust Fund, a little bit of how it works, and how it'll work for Dodge County, because it's kind of a new thing for Dodge County.
It is,
Other
yeah.
counties have had those before.
Yep, certainly. So, we are the 20th, 21st, and 22nd, housing trust funds that were created in the state. A little behind the eight ball, Iowa, for example, has one in every county but one. So, a housing trust fund, really, you can get dollars from all sorts of areas. We obviously started it with the two state funds that came down to the counties, but you can get donations into it. For example, so Min Prairie is the administrator for the three counties, Dodge, Steele, and Waseca. But the county treasurer holds the fiscal oversight of it. So, that's how it works. It really has very few limitations on what you can do for it. You can do land acquisition, you can increase rental units, building, helping with rent subsidies. You can do all sorts of things, but really the advisory council is what determines the expenditures for that year. So, every year it could be different. But, for example, Steele County, the HRA has already contributed $50,000 to $75,000 to it this year. Duluth has some tax levies that they put in. Theirs is up to $14 million already, and they just started in 2021. So it really is only limited by the people in it and the communities that we're in, so. But it's for the whole county. We want to make sure that we're, doing projects in different areas of the county. But this land, we knew of that Casson had, and it'd be a great starting point.
So, is the idea that this trust fund would build this building And then operate it?
Build the building, so I've already had talks with like SEMCAC or HRC, you know, some different, local CAP agencies that work with people that need housing too, and so we aren't sure yet where that would go, but the county does not wanna own or operate it. We would just make the project happen and make the housing happen, and then go from there.
And First Homes is a good partner, 'cause that's
Yeah.
what they do.
It is,
All right, well, I like it. I like the idea. I mean, I guess just go forward with...
If you're open, if council's open to it, what we can do is try and get a, you know, an actual offer from, the folks at the Dodge County Housing Trust Fund, and then bring that back for approval and just get a purchase agreement set up. And, we'll have terms included in that, you know, and make sure that it's all on the up and up for us. So I think it would be nice to keep moving on some of these things.
Okay.
I did also bring the Dodge County housing profile from Minnesota Housing, and I'll just leave a copy for each of you if you would like that, since it is Housing Week and there's good info on there.
Thank you very much,
Yeah.
appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
Have a good rest of your night.
Tim, do you need any action from us, or just?
Well, I mean, I think if the collective, direction is to move forward, you know, the action would be when we actually, have an offer in hand from them.
Okay. On to committee report, Planning Commission, preliminary plat, Oscar Meadows.
Well, thank you. We've had a couple of public hearings at the Planning Commission meeting on Monday night. The first one was for the preliminary plat of the proposed Oscar Meadows subdivision. I'll just bring it up here. So this is up in northwest Casson. It's approximately 40-acre parcel, though right now they're just proposing a subdivision on the south half of it. So there's 46 proposed buildable lots for single family. And then the rest of it is held in outlots for potentially future development up here on the north half. And then outlots for stormwater and trails and all of that good stuff. So with that, the staff did recommend approval with conditions, and with this, there is a resolution included in your packets for approval, and those conditions are included within this resolution. I did modify the language on number 2 just slightly from how it was when I had it for Planning Commission. The intent is still the same, but it's just a bit clearer. So the conditions I have right now for that one are: 1, all development-related fees shall be paid prior to releasing the final plat for recording. 2, the city will consider the proposed trail and open space corridor comparable to the value of the parkland dedication required for development. The trail shall be constructed according to the terms included in the development agreement. 3, the applicant shall submit to the city a drainage report for review by the city engineer. And 4, the applicant shall submit to the city an updated plat addressing comments from the city engineer. So, I did include the comments from the engineer in the packet. Some of that has to do with the naming of the street, since that was a question that came up. You'll notice they proposed an Oscar Drive Northwest, which normally don't go for names that fall outside of our established numbering system, so the engineer did propose alternate street names. If there's any questions.
What is between the outlot ponds that goes north? Is that underground pipes, that a plant
On
road?
the far west side, you're thinking, Ryan, or?
What is between the trees and and house 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, is that, what is that? Is that,
Brandy.
Yeah, so where you see the houses there, the shaded, areas there, the line I think you're referring to there is
right
the
there?
first
yeah,
one.
That one.
That's
Is
our-
that piping, or what is that?
Yeah, that actually, serves your house with sanitary sewer, so that's
Okay.
our sanitary sewer that, runs along there into our north, west lift station along, Dodge County 121. And then that green line there is the drainage well, the swale.
Yep.
Then the other green hatch is a wetland where the wetland delineated, so the outlot A and the trail that we're referring to would be to the west side of that, because they own west of the drainage way. So part of the development, they've included a trail, to connect in to the south, where we have some other land to ultimately go to, Prairie Land Park. So that's where the trail would cross over the wetland there and go north. And then that, like I said, that line is that sewer easement, so that technically would be owned by those property owners, but it'd be encumbered by the existing easement that we have.
So do we have to manage behind that?
Nope, they would own two,
Okay.
basically the center line of the swale. The outlot A would be city property, that'd be deeded.
Yep.
For the pond, which is the very southwest corner there, the little blue blobs you see, those are stormwater ponds, and then the trail would go over the top of the sanitary sewer south or kind of across those, two ponds there. And then connecting to some other outlets that we own, again, to go to Prairie View Park. And then to the north, through the development agreement process, we've talked to the developer about 16th Street, constructing that. So we've preliminarily discussed constructing 16th Street for the future stuff to the north there, and then also constructing the trail along 16th Street to get to the west side of the swale and then come down the west side of the trail. So that's where that parkland dedication comes in. The cost of that trail is well over, I think, the $40,000 of parkland that'd be due as part of the project. So staff is recommending that that be, you know, a construction of the trail and dedication of Outlet A, be in lieu of parkland dedication, because it far exceeds the cost of the trail. So the developers agreed to that, he sees the value, in that. And then that sewer turns there and will go underneath our future 16th Street. And then even if you wanna go down to the other easement, there's a significant gas line there, that's on the north end of what they're proposing too, so that's the east-west gas line that runs through
Okay.
town.
Yeah.
So that's gonna encumber their subdivision a little bit.
Yeah. One access point right now, which is 11th, correct?
Yep. 11th and the next phase that they're actually talking about bringing into the fall, you know, we gotta be careful of developer wanting to do something in the market and whatnot, but
Yeah.
they're actually starting on the second phase already, because they're running out of single-family lots. So they're talking about even starting that in the fall. So,
Okay.
yes, we may have a situation where they have one access, but as it's planned to come out to 16th Street, and then 16th Street will be the only access out to, Dodge County 21, which is, I think, a good for the city. The less access we have on that, county road, the better.
Makes sense,
And the
yeah.
county engineer is pretty happy to hear that we weren't gonna propose another access, so I think it makes sense from a traffic perspective. And that doesn't violate the fire code, so if you have planned second access, you're still in good shape, so.
Thinking short term, yeah.
Yep.
Okay. And was there a final plan for how many, retaining ponds total? in that
We're still
area?
working with that, we're telling them they gotta meet the stormwater requirements of the city, and they gotta figure out, and, we'll build it as needed, so we're working on that, so.
We are adding the numbered streets, right? That was what we determined Monday night. We were not,
Yeah,
you didn't have that picture in here that I saw, so.
Oh,
This one says Oscar Drive, unless I just wanted to make sure, because I thought that's what was discussed Monday night.
And we've got that park view
Yeah,
over
it
there.
says Oscar Drive.
Your name, so everything off. Yeah.
okay, yeah, I apologize, I didn't include that.
I just wanted to make sure when we were approving it, that we were approving the right one.
Yeah, I will follow the normal numbering
I like
convention
the
for it.
names, 'cause it's more creative and fun, but I can understand the reasons why we don't do that.
It's confusing.
He gets lost out on, you know, Oscar Boulevard Parkway, you know, number 614, you know, trying to deliver an ambulance there.
When we have roads that have the same name but are divided because they're in blocks like this, it's also confusing, 'cause which section of 14th Street are you talking about,
Sure.
right?
All right. Thanks, Ian. Any other questions for Ian or comments? Anything from our P and Z? No?
Okay, went as expected.
Okay. I'll entertain a motion to approve the...
I'll make the motion to approve.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Yeah, I'll second.
Thanks, Paul. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. On to number 3, the concept plan review. Update.
Right, so for this one, there's no official action required by council, it's just for review and comment only. We did have the public hearing for the comp plan amendment proposal on Monday night, although with that, there was no official recommendation made by the planning commission. It was actually tabled for staff and the applicants to come up with some more information regarding the proposed development. So with that, what they included with the proposal was for some workforce rental housing, a combination of townhomes and duplexes, just at the end of 3rd Street Northeast.
When we talked about this in March, we talked about this area in our planning meeting, correct?
That's right.
Wasn't it described as single family at the time to us?
No, I don't think so.
Wasn't?
I think it's always been a
Okay,
workforce
Multifamily.
one.
okay. I heard that wrong then, I apologize.
Oh, that's all right. No, I mean, and I think that in the fullness of time, I think it's likely that the applicant will probably withdraw their rezone application. There was a lot of good feedback from the public, and you know, I think a lot of it was well-founded. Some of it, you know, I always encourage people to give us a call here at City Hall so they can get good information. I think sometimes we have folks that, you know, get on social media a little too much, and that's my fault for even looking at it. You know, sometimes, I know the mayor says, hey, get off of Facebook. That's a good idea. I had a good conversation with one of the fellows that was, one of the gentlemen that was there on Monday night, and we talked a lot about it, and I certainly think that the biggest issue is the transportation links. And then, you know, there were some concerns about the density being abutting up against an R1 area. So, in the fullness of time, I think it's very likely that the applicant will withdraw that rezone application. You know, the city takes these, you know, people come to us, they say, hey, you know, here's the proposal, and we listen to them, and we try to give them good information, and, as you all know, we've talked about other sites that might have more potential, but, at the end of the day, you know, we let the people have their say, and I think it's always good to get that public input. It's really helpful. I think Dan and Paul would agree that it's helpful to get public feedback on, and, you know, you never know exactly what's gonna come up, so, I think at the end of the day, we've heard from a lot of the neighbors there that they're opposed to the change in zoning, so I think that's probably fair.
Thank you. Anything else on that? That's good.
I forgot to ask this at the planning meeting, but the parkway that's just shown here as future road, would that be intended to be a larger than standard street? Like a four lane, or?
That has been the council's discussion in the past, is it would be more of a boulevard kind of a street, more of a higher utilization street, because it would serve, the entire area to the north, with the Minard and, Rupert properties in the fullness of time.
Yeah, okay, that's kind of what I was thinking. All right, thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much. On to old business, Dodge Center Ambulance Tax District information. That letter is in your packet.
So at the last council meeting, there were just some questions about it, so I got a hold of, Lee Mattson from over in Dodge Center, and you could see what he had for feedback. It's a little open-ended, but, you know, it's certainly up to the council. I do think, at the end of the day, you know, if this moves forward, we won't see any costs, and if it doesn't move forward, then, obviously, I think we'd be, you know, we would be willing to share in the costs of the lawyer fees. I mean, I think it's probably gonna move forward, so, but it's up to council. If you're not interested, then certainly I can relay that to them as well.
Okay. Anybody, opinions?
I wish more people jumped in on it rather than just the four of us. But, I don't know, there's anything we can do about it.
No, we can't force the other, basically townships, right?
Right, townships, yeah.
But they have no idea on any kind of pricing?
Well, I mean, he's got $20,000 as a total cost, and, you know, the biggest issue is he doesn't have a metric to divide costs if the effort fails. Well, I mean, at the end of the day, you know, we might be willing to help them with it, but I mean, I don't think we would bear the lion's share of that. I think that Dodge Center is making this effort. It's gonna benefit them as a city, because it's gonna take that burden off of their department, you know, to provide this kind of support to it, so, you know, if they wanna prorate it out and say, hey, you know, we're on the hook for $5,000 or $7,000, I could see something like that, but I don't know that, as you see the letter there from Lee.
If it does go forward, it should almost be divided by whatever percentage of board seats we would also be requesting.
Right. Well, I think structure-wise, I mean, I see the board seats matching up with per capita. I mean, at the end of the day, you know, whether you do household or you do probably per person is the best way to go.
Yeah.
You know, and I think if that's the way it is, then, you know, I think that's as fair as it can be for us. My goal is still for this to be a capital-only taxing district. I really feel like it needs to operate, the operations need to be covered by their, you know, their structure. You know, it's the special costs when they have ambulances, they have to buy stuff like that, that I feel like it matches really well with kind of what we do with our fire district with, you know, the townships. When we say, hey, we know that 5 years from now or 10 years from now, we're gonna need another pump truck, we need to start putting money away. Like, to me, like, I feel like they need to be able to operate, because otherwise, you know, it kind of spirals out. You know, the chance of getting substantial support from the legislature seems like it may be starting to dry up this year. The governor's proposal was for $16 million, which is looking like it's gonna be focused in the north central and the sort of the west central, which are the areas of the state where those folks are hemorrhaging the hardest. So that's where they're looking at putting the money. So, I mean, at the end of the day, you know, just, whatever you guys wanna do is what we'll do.
Opinions?
think we start the process, we go with it.
Yeah, I'm good moving forward.
Okay, so if we could get a motion for
This
that,
meeting.
then we'll go ahead and, submit that letter. I'll sign it and submit it if we have council approval.
Okay, I'll make a motion to approve the proposal and submit that. Is there a second?
Second?
Okay, any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. On to the administrator's report.
Okay, just a couple things to highlight tonight here. One thing I don't have on my report, but I wanted to highlight that, as you're aware, Ms. Sullivan has indicated she's expecting to be leaving government service for the city. So we did post a couple of positions, would be related to filling her job, one at a higher level of experience and one at a lower level of experience, so that we have some flexibility when it's based on the applicant pool. So I'm hopeful that we'll see some good applicants in that area the next couple of weeks while that job's open. So I've got some legislative updates. Omnibus bills are starting to be fired up. It does sound like, it's a lot of sort of small blow this year with the omnibus. They did a lot of things last year, and they're tweaking the tobacco, or the marijuana, rather, policy, some of those different things. The EMS met last week. They had a good meeting. They had a lot of different things to discuss. Had a good conversation with the fire chief about a couple of different things, and sort of put the onus on him to come up with some options, I think, and some solutions for different things. So we'll see how that goes and when that comes back. Exciting project. I know the Park and Rec Committee has sort of allowed for a creation of a Veterans Memorial Project. So you'll see information in there. The site, they've selected that sort of southeast part of Veterans Park where the current memorial is. That's their preference for visibility and accessibility. So I've got that in your packet tonight, kind of where they're looking at it. It wouldn't be that whole site, but it would be kind of that area. One thing they're looking at doing is moving the sand volleyball courts over to the eastern part of the park, kind of from where it is, and we'd like to have 2 in there. So the goal is probably next year to dig out that, or maybe even this year, to dig out the area on the east side and get that ready for sand volleyball, to have two playing courts there. So I think that'll be a positive.
Where at? I'm sorry.
So actually, no, I'll bring that up. Well, I don't bring it up. Ian, would you bring up the map I have included there of the memorial site?
No, for the sand volleyball courts.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so there's kind of the site plan for where it's looking. You can see where it would impact that sand volleyball court. So actually across the access road there's a parcel of land which currently the city just mows. Scroll all the way to the
I
top
gotcha.
there.
I got it.
So the thought process is to provide some screening for those houses, which may be beneficial to solving some other issues up there. And then we'll be utilizing that space for sand volleyball. So I think it's kind of would be an ideal place to put it, and then it opens up that east part of the park.
Do you know why they didn't want to put the memorial in that spot instead of moving the courts?
Close to the house.
They felt the visibility was much higher, closer to the road.
Yeah, well, my concern is that while it is visible, it's also gonna have a lot of kids running through it and be susceptible to more vandalism if it's right in the middle of the park.
Well, that's a valid point, and that's one point that I brought up with them, that I think that, I think the idea would be probably to utilize that north half of the east half, because this is actually lying east-west. It'd be to utilize more of that east half of that green square, and I think there probably will be some level of screening there as well, probably on the back side of it. Maybe some decorative fence, something along those lines. But the goal from the committee, at least from what I heard, and I don't entirely agree with them, but obviously they have their own, understanding and perception of it, is they would like this to be something that's more interactive for families and children, as opposed to, if you're familiar with that, the new monument over in Byron, kind of by that roundabout on the east side of Byron, you come into town, you go around that, kind of by the McDonald's there.
Yep.
It's a nice memorial. However, utilization there is very difficult because it's not a very accessible location. It's not
You
one.
can drive by it.
Yeah, you can drive by it and you can see it, but it's not something, so the idea from the committee at least was they were more interested in having, something that's for the children to learn more about the experience, kind of a little bit more like what they've got in Rochester with the Peace Plaza there. So, how that'll all come to fruition, I don't know. But I certainly, that's a good point, it's a point I brought up too, is I'm always concerned about vandalism. We did talk about, utilizing cameras and things like that. It's no different from anything else in the park when we see, a lot of times we're reacting. It's, the next day you see something's damaged, so.
But if it's out in the open there more, it's less susceptible to vandalism than if
You-
it's tucked
It
back by
might be, it's gonna be
residents.
more visible probably from the streets, gonna have more, probably more street lighting and things like that at night, so that's true. So, a lot of stuff to come on that, that's a long-term project, but wanted to highlight that for you. It could be a very nice project for us here in the city. Let's see here. EDA, I also included in your packet some information on the EDA. They weren't able to have their meeting due to lack of a quorum, but they did have some interesting information from the State of Minnesota Extension. So I included in that as well as I included a proposal that they would have been looking at from that Fourth Lane apartment complex. So just some informational stuff for you all to be aware of. And then I think, the only other thing I have is, you're familiar and aware of some of the issues we're having with City Clerk Linda. She's possibly going to be out for an extended period of time, and she was really spearheading our software changeover. And without those hours available for staff, I'm recommending that we stop that turnover at this time, that changeover in software. I don't think it's going to be feasible for us, especially with some of the other staffing changes that may be coming up in the next couple of weeks, for us to continue that at this time. So, that's my recommendation.
You mean you wanna pause it, or like terminate it?
Well, I have a conversation with the lead project manager, and if it could be paused, for a sufficient period of time, for example, 6 months, and still be effective, I'm open to that. At this point in time, I'm not sure if that's gonna be possible. I think it might be better to terminate the process entirely. And part of that also lies in the fact that we had a previous employee, the previous finance director, who was a big proponent of this system, and some of the other staff are not as big on the system. And actually, having gone through, I think I highlighted this earlier this year, having started the process, my understanding from the sales staff, you always got the salesman who comes in and sells it, and my thought process on it was that we'd be getting a software sort of package presented to us, here's how you utilize it, then we'd be doing training. The amount of man-hours and time that's been put into it already on our side has been much more substantial than I would have expected. And part of that is they want us to fine-tune it so that when we get it, it's exactly what we want. And I understand that, but it also means that people still have to do their regular jobs and then also spend hours of going through different things that, personally, I guess I look at it a little bit like Microsoft Office. Like, okay, here it is, here's the package, you need to learn how to use it, and we'll teach you how to use it. And that's more of what I was expecting. What we're having is much more involved processes from our own staff. So I'm not sure that in the fullness of time, this will be the best product for the staff that we have. So, I certainly have more information for you later, but that's my recommendation, would be to either pause or terminate the transition at this time. Any questions on that?
Was there a breakage fee?
We'll have fees for the work that's been done to the date, but there's no separation fee, no additional fee for that.
Okay. I would say find out what the details are.
Sure.
Anybody else got anything?
Well, I agree, because if we can't use it, and we don't have time to use it, it doesn't seem like we want to keep paying for it,
Yeah, I guess the biggest issue is, I don't know how long the city clerk's gonna be out. Unfortunately, she had that medical issue that's necessitated her to be out a lot longer. She was anticipating being back next week already, and that is not gonna happen. And without those, 20 or 30 hours she was putting into that project right now, a week, it's just not sustainable. So, a pause at certainly at least, possibly terminating it if that's not able to be, their staff has got everything slated out, so that, if they say, well, you almost have to restart it, because all the personnel will move on to different projects, and they'll all turn over. So, after I have that conversation with her, I'll be able to give you a better recommendation.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you. Anything else, Cap?
No, I think that's enough.
Thanks, Tim. Appreciate it. Engineers report.
All right, thank you, Mayor and Council.
Got the good news over here.
Yeah, you buried at the bottom, too, which is fun. Well, on a good note.
Number 3.
Yeah, let's tell you. Well, maybe the first one's good news, too. So I think Councilmember Igler pushed for a speed study on the south leg of the roundabout on Highway 57. So you see the correspondence there, they're looking at reducing that speed down to 40 mile an hour. We advocated for it during the design, but we're shot down. So I think us bringing it forward from a council level, and the school also objected to it, too, and wanted it changed. So MnDOT went out there, did the study, and did ultimately, or are going to change it to 40 mile an hour. So I think it's probably more appropriate, so it seems to fit, so.
Do you know when the signage will turn over? I know Dr. Thompson asked me today at the Chamber of Commerce meeting.
Yeah, I don't know.
In May?
Yeah, probably when school's out. Yeah. Oh, okay.
It said end of April, mid-May.
Yeah.
There you go, so,
It's in your packet.
we'll see. So I guess that's just more of an FYI item at this point, so,
Right.
Any questions on that, or?
No,
Between
thank you.
the dollar store and the route.
Yep, so I'm sorry, that'll be northbound, as you kinda come out of the town.
Oh.
North of our 11th Street, north of the Dollar General, there's a sign that says 50,
Yeah.
and then it's 50 all the way to Manorville. So it's gonna say 40, and then it'll say 50 after you go through the roundabout if you continue northbound into Manorville, so I think it fits, so.
Thank you.
Yep, second item is another grant opportunity. This would be for our Southwest Reconstruction Project, which we're, looking at doing next year through our bonding bill that we received. It is ultimately through the MPCA called the Stormwater Resilient Implementation Grants. So basically MPCA has $35 million set aside through this RFP process. So in the council packet is the RFP. I got, kind of the application that we're looking at submitting for tomorrow if council, so directs us to do that. To ultimately submit, for what I'm looking at, about $843,000 to offset some costs there. So what we're looking at, and Ian pulled open a map, and that's not gonna be our end map, that's the city engineer's map to staff to get it looking a lot better than what I can come up with. But, the area in red there is storm sewer that we need to construct as part of our project, right? We're gonna rebuild the storm sewer, get a better storm sewer system, get rid of the valley gutters, the concrete gutters across the street that nobody likes to drive through, and extend storm sewer throughout the neighborhood through our reconstruction. Green area there is our Lions Park. That blue area there is actually part of Lion Park behind some of those houses. I'm looking at adding a pond in that area. That's going to be our justification to get this grant money. That pond is about a $150,000 add-on to our storm sewer. So we're looking at, with that pond, about $1 million worth of storm sewer associated cost. That pond can ultimately reduce the 100-year discharge rate of stormwater by 75%. So then in the application saying, hey, if you look at giving us this $843,000 for $1 million of the stormwater work, we are reducing the discharge to Maston Creek, in the 100-year rain event, 75%. So it's a huge decrease. Now, it's not that big of a watershed of Maston Creek, so in the grand scheme, it'll have some benefit. And then we're talking about what happened in 2019. We got our big study that we're gonna submit to them that showed, what we were doing to show some big reductions, and show them, what we had in the bonding bill, some of the pictures about the city being closed down and closing down Highway 57 there, because that was closed in 19, and this will help that. So, that's what we're looking at doing to help, secure some more money to build better public infrastructure and reduce the flooding of Maston Creek. So, I guess, unless council objects, the staff's planning on submitting that tomorrow, so.
No objection here, anybody
I'm
else?
all in favor of it.
Okay.
And I think we've been successful in the past. I don't know how many people are applying. I'm not aware of any cities in southeast Minnesota, so we'll see where this goes. I think it's a small amount of work for potentially a big bonus, so. With that said, we'll move forward then.
Thank you very much.
All right, last item, this is for the LRIP application we submitted, some months ago for the continuation of 16th Street Northwest from where we ended now behind Quick Trip, all the way over to Dodge County 21. So, as you can see there, we were awarded our ask of $1.5 million. The total project cost we presented at the time was $1.9 million, so that leaves us about $400,000 short. And that stretch, as you remember, is municipal state aid eligible, so we can go to our municipal state aid bank that we get every year and use up the last remaining $400,000. We have available to us about $1.2 million in that bank that we can continue to go negative. That gets recharged every year. So we have plenty of money to cover that. And that was the council's last direction of, we're building 16th Street, we're spending municipal state aid money, as needed. Brandon tried to get the funding, and here we are getting the rest of the funding. So, exciting news. So yeah, we're looking at moving forward with 25 construction unless directed otherwise, so.
And keep in mind that subdivision that Mr. Bigelow is planning on building, he's also planning on building that 16th Street in. So really, it will be nice because you'll have that 16th Street all the way into that new subdivision, completed. So I think it actually lines up really, really well.
Not enough time to have a fall of 24 construction with the construction environment we're in?
The city administrator is pushing the engineer to do that. Stay tuned, so we'll see.
Okay, just
We got
a
lot of
thought. I
irons in
mean, with the
fire.
environment we're in, you might get some pretty decent bids to have a late summer project.
Agreed. I think we'll at least have a fall bid with maybe some pipe work, grading work done, and then maybe constructing and finishing up in 25. I think the attractive bidding is gonna continue into 25, so I don't think we're missing the boat on that.
Sure.
Unless it rains all summer, then we'll have a different conversation if we slow down construction, but, it's still a pretty good environment, so.
That's awesome. Thanks for putting that
Really
application.
good.
Yeah, no, thanks. Like I said, we've been successful. I think things gotta line up, council's gotta put time and money into going after this. We had good projects and, you know, we've been successful, so it all has to kinda come together, so it's been good.
Great. Thanks, Brandon.
You're welcome.
Appreciate it. All right, on to personnel. Number one, the Charlstrom resignation letter from the fire department. Everybody had a chance to read through that. I'd like to thank Mr. Charlstrom for his service and wish him the best. I'll entertain a motion to accept his resignation.
I'll make that motion.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thanks, Ryan. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Is it Grube? Grube hiring, for the police department. Anything you'd like to add, or? Okay. Any questions for the chief? Okay. Entertain a motion to approve.
I'll make that motion.
Thanks, Dan. Do I have a second?
Yeah, I'll second.
All right, thanks, Paul. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Thorson return letters. Mr. Thorson's coming back from a leave of absence from the fire department, so he'll be back, or is back. Welcome him back to the department. Entertain a motion to accept his return.
I'll make that motion.
Thanks, Ryan. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. On number 4, the officer recommendations. Are there any questions on that? And this was presented to EMS too, correct?
The names were not, they were still finishing that process,
Okay.
but they were just going through some final testing.
Okay.
But they were all at 90% finished, so.
Okay, that sounds good. Okay, any questions on that? And Chief called me early, he couldn't make it tonight, but I told him if anybody had questions, they could contact him directly, but if there's no questions, I'll entertain a motion to approve.
Make the motion to approve.
Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
Thanks, Dan. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Let's see if there's any questions on correspondence before we go to our closed session. So I think, Ryan, you had something?
Yeah, I just had one on the liquor store from Kathy. It said that despite requests, I have not received a liquor store financial statement since August of 2023. Is that something that we should be concerned about? Who gives that to her? And
She has a financial statement. The issue is that, there's some things with her new point-of-sale equipment that aren't lining up on some of the
Okay.
reports. And so, I mean, she has a report.
Yeah.
She doesn't necessarily agree with it.
Oh, okay.
So, I mean, the audit field work starts next week, and I think there'll probably be some adjustments that'll have to be made, some journal entries that'll have to be made on hers before, they did complete all the back reconciliation, so 2023 is in the books. It's just a matter of, I think there are some things that she disagrees with, and I think
Okay.
we have to move through all that.
Oh, yeah, no, I was just curious.
No, I mean, it's a good question,
Yeah, we
and part of it is just the way
Ask for
that
some money from the
the stuff translates over into when it gets downloaded into our accounting software from the point of sale.
Thanks, Ryan. Anything else on correspondence? Okay, with that, we're gonna go to closed session to get an update, excuse me, on labor negotiation strategy. We will close the regular meeting and we will record the closed session and reopen the meeting when we're done. And if you just go home, thanks for coming tonight. Thank you. We'll close the regular session.
It's a dumb question, but when we do close and we record it,